Right, I think we're ready to get started. Thank you everyone for joining. Welcome to the session today on innovating the Excel automation for proposals, the challenges that people have when it comes to working within Excel. We're using Excel as a tool for proposals or statements of work or other key documents like these. I'm excited to present this today. It's a real common challenge that we're hearing a lot of from our customers. And so we've done some really interesting kind of innovative approaches to solve these challenges. As I was saying, Excel's really common now in proposals or statements of work, but oftentimes incorporating that content from Excel into those documents can be problematic. And so today I'll just chat about some of those issues and sort of demonstrate our approach to solving them. Maybe I should start with a quick introduction. I'm Jason Anderson. I'm the VP of Sales and Proposal Strategy here at Expedience. I've left my email address here just in case anyone would like to reach out to me directly. And I'm excited to present this topic. It's a really fun item to talk on. Maybe to continue the introductions, just to give a word or three about Expedience. This is really, this is going to nicely demonstrate or highlight some of what we do. We're sort of proposal people through and through. And a lot of what our vision, our approach is to leverage standard out-of-the-box applications like Office and Word and Excel. And so this is going to be, like I said, a really nice demonstration of how we can bring those things together in a nice way for our customers. We're deeply experienced in a space called proposal automation. We've done so now for well over 20 years across our previous entity of Pragmatech Software, where we made the RFP machine, and now here at Expedience over the last handful of years, last 10 years or so. Our approach, and beyond just using standard applications, is to highly customize those for our customers. So really what I'm about to show you today really comes out of our services practice, where customers present us really unique challenges with how they want to use Excel and some of the issues they've had historically in using Excel. And so I'll show this here as we go. Maybe I'll start by just talking about what kinds of documents have we seen. I use the word proposals or kind of generically, but really these could be statements of work or RFP responses or DDQs, or really a number of other documents where customers are commonly taking charts, text, pricing calculators, or references. Sometimes they're using Excel as a master source of content for resumes. Instead of having to update the resume at each proposal, they're bringing in content around recent projects or years of experience from Excel directly, or a number of other matrices or charts or tables. Really common that customers are using these Excel kind of data inputs and bringing them directly into proposals. But as we probably all know that on this call, and maybe that's why we're on this session together, there's a lot of challenges in doing so. One of them is just that it's a slow process commonly. Some of my financial customers that use fairly complicated Excel spreadsheets with lots of data points that they're bringing into their documents, to tick and tie those numbers together is quite a slow and painful process. Likewise, when it comes to bringing over tables or charts or other items in from Excel, commonly folks are copying and pasting it directly, which obviously works, but there's a challenge with consistencies, being consistent in that process or making errors along the way. So these are things that we're hearing commonly from customers, and likewise, there's a number of issues around. Great, so Excel can be linked to the Word document, but those links can be a bit problematic, or they can be but they can break, to be more direct. They can work sometimes, but then inconsistently stay in sync, or inconsistently work, I should just say. Especially when that data source, that Excel spreadsheet, might be coming in from the cloud, like OneDrive or SharePoint. There's a lot of challenges there along the way. So there's a number of issues that we're probably all really familiar with when it comes to to connecting again and using those really important tables and charts and graphs and data points from Excel into the proposals. So I'll just talk a bit about how we solve those challenges now, and then I'm just going to show you. I'll show you a couple examples that I've queued up, and I think they're all going to work. I've done a lot of tweaking and changing at the last second, as any person would tell you not to do. I've done exactly those, but we solve these challenges with a really innovative tagging process that we've created for our templates or our documents that we're using the Expedience toolset to create. And really the result is this, that we can create a really consistent, fast, accurate means of connecting those dots between the Excel spreadsheet, the source for this content that's coming into the proposals or into the statement of work, without the fear of the links breaking or without the fear of the inconsistencies of formatting or presentation that come along with that manually done. In essence, we're replicating and automating that copy and paste mechanism, but doing so with, like I said, a really innovative approach through tagging. So that's it. That's basically what I'll show you now, and I'm excited to dig into this and show you a little bit about how we make that happen and how that works. So let me just show you. I'll just kind of tab over to my little template. It's a standard Microsoft Word template, and I'll just start by automating this document, creating this document. I won't spend a lot of time talking about these tools because I know to many of you this might be obvious, or you may be using this functionality today from Expedience. But here's the concept, that within this template, I could simply make a handful of selections of the different product lines or service offerings that I'm proposing for this customer. And when I do so, you'll notice that this particular template has some logic built into it to make some extra help for me, basically, that as I make a selection, this template's been wired in a way that it can select multiple other records for me on my behalf, if you will. So it's a fast means of ensuring that I've gotten all of the appropriate items to include in this particular proposal. In this case, maybe I'll include just a few CVs as well. And I definitely want to include this references. This is something that's part of my demonstration today around how we can integrate in Excel. And I'll show you a number of different kind of ways that we can interact with this template here in a second. Well, here I'm at the bottom of the template, and I've chosen now, I've selected my solution investment preference for this particular proposal. And now I'll click this Run Assembler button and simply have the Expedience toolset build for me this document, right? So this is my proactive proposal that I'm creating based on those specific selections that I've made. So you'll see this particular proposal has this cover page and has a number of these content controls, and we'll work with these a lot, as our headers and footers, and really everything I might need as a standing starting point for this particular proposal, this particular document. Obviously, I would interact with this in a lot of different ways to complete it for this client, but for the sake of our demonstration today, I want to talk a bit about these content controls that we call placeholders, because these are where we'll see a lot of that Excel integration interacting, or Excel that automating of that Excel kind of content integration, like I was mentioning a moment ago. Maybe just for those folks that are with us on this call that are newer to Expedience, maybe I should just talk quickly about, oh, by the way, I don't have to necessarily use Excel to connect every or to update each of these items that are anticipating my new content or my personalization spot for this proposal. Certainly, if I wanted to just interact with this directly right here, maybe I'm proposing right at Coca-Cola, and maybe I'm going to use Coke as their short name of the company. You'll notice that as I make those updates, these content controls are really nicely linked together. So if I make one update for that client name long or client name short, that's kind of rippled throughout the document and made all of those updates accordingly. Likewise, just to give you sort of a sense of completion before I go really get to the point of using Excel to do some of these steps, I'm going to show you this placeholder form as well, that should I want to interact with these, again, these content control or these spots of personalizations directly, I could do so right here in this placeholder form, and answering some of these key questions that the proposal is waiting for me to provide the information. I could certainly link out to Outlook to upgrade or to update this information, or to our CRM like Salesforce.com, etc. But really what I talk about now is I want to show you how these items also could be controlled by Excel, and that's a really common practice as well, that we see a lot of our clients have some needs in that way. Let me show you the approach. So within our tool set, we have the ability to actually make an association between this proposal template and whatever the source Excel spreadsheet. So I'm just going to tell it right away, hey, go out to the client spreadsheet and make this connection, so I can bring in whatever values are in that Excel spreadsheet. The tool then prompts me, Expedience prompts me to go and make that selection of which spreadsheet I want to use. So I'm going to go out to my clients folder, and here's BigCo, the company that I'm proposing services for today. And there's the internal pricing document that we may have been working on for some time together. And you'll notice that as soon as it makes that connection, it goes to work and doing this automation that I was describing earlier. There are a number of bookmarks or Gantt charts and timelines and responsibilities matrices and items that were linked to that Excel spreadsheet that were just updated. And then right on the heels of that, as I say, okay, you'll notice that it's going through now, and every place that it had even pieces of the data, the content itself of the proposal that were linked back to that Excel spreadsheet, were just updated. So I'll just show you that quickly so you can get a sense of really where this can go. And I'll tell you, I hesitated a bit when I was staging these examples, because this can be so different from client to client for the specific needs you might have. But just to demonstrate the idea, these elements, the company name long and short, like I was just interacting with, and likewise, if you'll notice this paragraph right here, this is a really interesting sort of approach. Here's the customer's Excel spreadsheet that we were working on that I linked it to. You'll notice that it has a number of these fields: the company's name, the long and the short name, other fields that were important to us around the project name, or other really specific variables that might have driven some of our investment calculations that we want to share with this customer, or other responsibilities matrices and Gantt charts that we wanted to share with this customer. Were all, again, done out here in Excel. But this paragraph here, this little "we understand SAP technology" paragraph, I staged because it's a really kind of an interesting idea that I've seen a number of folks use, where I've got a simple selector where I'm again, as I'm making these calculations in advance, maybe I've made a selection of this certain SAP product line that I'm proposing services for on this particular proposal. And there's all kinds of really specific information that's related to that selection that I've made at the front of my Excel spreadsheet. This approach that we take can be this kind of detailed, again, where that methodology or the version or the what have you, all of these different variables that were driven back to from this chart can be beautifully linked directly to that content, and again, in a way that we can really have some consistency and accuracy. You know, I use this content as an example. This is my former life, is to produce these exact kinds of proposals, and I can't tell you about the idiocy mistakes I've made along the years, where I might have inversed the number of languages and number of countries, inversed those numbers, and made real problems for my proposals. Again, accuracy and how it's perceived by my customers. Obviously, having these tied together, where if I'm using Excel like this example does, where I'm using Excel to really drive a lot of our key calculations, capturing this information, tying it together to the calculation, and also tying it into the narrative like this is a really powerful way of, again, making sure that we've got more than just being fast. It's accurate and consistently accurate. So let me just show you a few other things that happened here beyond just those variables that came in directly into these placeholders. If I scroll way down to the bottom, you'll notice those other charts, some of the other matrices and charts that I just saw back at the Excel spreadsheet level itself. But those were right now tied directly into these bookmarked areas of the proposal. So what we've done here is we've nicely staged the document to anticipate the size and presentation mechanism, so I can make sure that we're not, again, as we're if we were individually all copying and pasting this content in separately, there's a real opportunity for us to accidentally again do so differently, and maybe have this look less than in some cases less than even readable or legible. There's a few items though that didn't come in automatically, and I want to talk about that because this is really staging another wrinkle or another possibility, if you will, of how Excel can be nicely tied to our proposal process. In this case, you might remember when I was going through the tick boxes, I checked the box saying, "Oh, I want to include my references." What I'm about to demonstrate is a really, again, a powerful and a common process that I've seen a number of clients use, where they don't necessarily want to have certainly they could, right? In our content library, we could store references right here and drop it into the document directly from our content library. But in some cases, the customers have a more challenging process than simply saying, okay, great, by the industry, which reference do I want to use? Commonly, they would include things like the customer's RFP might have dictated specifics about the size, the employee count, the industry, the geography of the reference clients we want or that we need to include in our response. So in those cases, some customers prefer actually to store reference or other kind of critical information like that in Excel, and again have that tied directly into the document. Let me show you how I've staged that exact process here within this document. So back to these automations or these sort of customizations we brought to this example. I've got this references opportunity right here within one of my other options. I can say, great, I want to go out and now select references. Again, you'll notice that this tool guides me directly to say, you've got to go back to the core spreadsheet where we keep our references. Well, there's our references folder, and there's my little pretend references Excel spreadsheet. When I make that selection, you'll notice I've got this sort of stage right now ready to go where I've gone through my process, right? Maybe I was using the regular filtering process of Excel and paring this down based on industry or organization or employee count or other key factors. But you'll notice that I'll just kind of expand this because my little Zoom window doesn't make it easy for me to see. I hope you can see it better now as well. But you'll notice that as I've made these selections here at the Excel spreadsheet, we've done some additional customizations where we've made an association between each of these different clients that are my reference clients and their key graphics. Maybe their logo is a really common item, but look what's happening here in Excel, that as I'm making those selections, it's staging for me, and I just selected 4, so that's where we see them here. But as I've made those selections, it's staging for me the output that I want to bring into my proposal. So again, I think you can visualize sort of interacting with Excel like you may be doing right now and making those key selection points. But you'll see back here now at my proposal, I'm ready to bring those references that I've sorted through and selected into my document. It's a really simple step. I'll go back over here and say, great, from a references perspective, let's insert those that we selected. And as soon as I say insert, again, it updates the proposal directly by bringing in those items that I had staged back there at the output. Now, the wonderful thing is this, and again, I don't know everyone, obviously everyone's processes are different, right? But commonly, where I've used Excel as a calculator in my previous lives, we weren't done, right? So in essence, we might have done this calculation on our pricing and our Gantt charts or other tables based on yesterday's inputs. But as I was working on the proposal, maybe I had subject experts or other key contributors that are still back over there in Excel, back over here, making changes. They may have changed things like the number of expected hours or the rates maybe that we're going to charge for certain individuals on the project. Maybe these things have been updated. And I'll just go and force some updates to make the numbers change to something I can remember twice in a row. Let me just do one more at 150 an hour so I can see, oh, geez, one more again. So I just want that number to be over 300K so I could know what I'm looking for. But this happens, right? That we've made that connection. We've dropped in these items into our proposal. We're about to PDF this and send this off to the client because this is ready now potentially for submission. But now I've got the very arduous task of, wait a second, has anything changed? Might there be anything that's different on that proposal? We already know one that I've just changed the pricing to make this point obvious. But recall all of those different. I just wanted to get to this topic again. All of these really neat. Tell you what, let's change that too. Let me just go back. This is where I get myself sometimes in trouble changing too many silly things. But let me come back over here and say it wasn't that product line. We've made a change now to this SAP Learning that we've decided to have a different approach for this proposal for one reason or the other. I just wanted to make some visible, obvious changes in a way that wait a second, when it comes now to this proposal, and before I PDF this and send this to the customer, a good best practice might very well be for me to come over here and simply say I want to update the content to make sure I've got the latest version of all of these items in my proposal reflected in the proposal document itself. You'll see it just went through and updated the bookmarks, and then it updated the placeholders on the heels of that. And hopefully, as long as I haven't broken anything along the way, things like that SAP Learning change that I made, or way down there at the pricing table, I should be able to see now that that's now over 300K like I thought it was as the change. That process that I just did in a simple little click saying update really illustrates, I think, some of the advantages of not necessarily, there's no reason, of course, this is Microsoft Word. Why our software lives in Microsoft Word is because there's so much versatility, and people have processes in place right now around largely potentially even using copying and pasting or other manual steps might very well be a part of their process. But if I would have tied all of those elements in manually, that process of ensuring that any updates I've made back at Excel are reflected now at the document level would have been a real challenge for me. So you can see, again, I think you can see quickly where the benefits of having these things nicely tied together in a way that's both consistent and accurate and reliable really come in to be a big help to us. So I'll tell you, again, as I mentioned earlier, there's a bunch of, probably for every customer that we've done this automation for, what the automation itself did was unique for each particular customer, because again, their processes were unique. What they were doing as far as the types of content, as well as the processes they used, were unique. The beautiful thing about this model that we've created, or the approach that I've just demonstrated here, is it's really versatile. Again, our professional services team, when they deploy this technology and employ this customization, it's got a reusable piece of software, a module that helps drive this performance and this capability, but they also tweak and modify that unique to each customer. So this can be really tailored to your specific challenges along the way. So with that, I think that I can probably pause for a second and just allow folks to jump in with questions. And maybe I should have said before in advance, so definitely I should have said in advance, but there's a Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. If you'll simply go out to the Q&A panel, this is a great spot to capture, to share with me any questions you might have about the kinds of integration, or the types of automation that we've done between Excel and these documents. And I'll just take these questions as they come in, at least with the few moments that we have together here now. Let me just see. So one question that I've gotten already is around Excel RFPs, and whether or not this exact process could be used for Excel-based RFPs. And I'll tell you, that's a different challenge. Oddly enough, it sounds like it might be the same, but the Excel RFPs are completed with our tool we call Excel Connect. And Excel Connect, its job is to replicate tables from Excel into Word, and then use Word to answer those questions, or answer those RFP questions, or RFI, or whatever the Excel document questions were, before pushing those answers back from Word into Excel. That's what Excel Connect does. This process that I'm showing today is really different than Excel Connect. This is around, again, the use case, if you will, is around a scenario that a customer uses Excel for calculators or matrices or tables or charts or graphs, other kind of key inputs for proposals or RFP responses even. Those likely proposals as well, obviously, but that's not exactly the same as what this does. Another question that came in there is around again Excel Connect, saying if finishing steps is required for Excel Connect. It's not, right? So finishing steps and this automation around linking and embedding or again auto connecting, the right word without making it too technical sounding, but connecting or anticipating key inputs from Excel as a data source is something that's done through the finishing steps component, and it's not required for Excel. It's completely separate from Excel Connect, so you can have one or the other or both. That works perfectly fine together. Another question that came in saying, seems like this would work well with companies to have a lot of standard product lines and data. But this customer was wondering how I determine if data in Excel should be in a few documents with many tabs. What do I determine if data in Excel should be in a few documents with many tabs? I'm not certain that I understand the question. Michelle, maybe we can jump into it offline.
So maybe I could
please
jump in. This is Melissa. Hey, so it could be that you're integrating with multiple spreadsheets, if that's what you mean by documents with many tabs. So that's absolutely okay. So what you saw in the demonstration, yes, that's what you mean. So what you saw in the demonstration, Jason was using two separate spreadsheets, and in fact they were very different. And in the first case, the spreadsheet was real specific to a customer, and that's used in some workflows, right? So you may have, when you have a new prospect, a folder, and in that folder you have a spreadsheet that keeps the data and information and things like that, and that may in fact bring data in from another spreadsheet, right? That could be linked to a pricing spreadsheet, for instance. So that's a type of use. When he showed the references, that was actually a completely separate workbook. And when he did that one, that was actually a single workbook that you would just use to make selections, would create that table, put it in, but you wouldn't save that whole spreadsheet inside your customer folder. So you could have multiple workbooks. So the document can be linked to multiple workbooks in different ways. That would be something we would work with you to determine what's your best process and what's the best way to interact with your data. Hopefully that answers. So it would be what you're already using, what works for you, and we work around that, right? What kind of training is included? So if I could answer that one,
please.
Jason, unless you want to take that. So the training, there is basic training, and when we implement this Excel, it's in really two parts. So one is to really understand what you're trying to accomplish. So there's a lot of discovery that we do on where does the data live now, who maintains the data, how many workbooks, all of that. So we're going to look at that. How does that data come into your document? How should it be formatted? That's important too. Sometimes it's very easy if it's just a little bit of text, but if it's a table or a chart, you want to see how do we make sure when it appears in the document, it looks perfect every time. And so we're going to work through that. The other thing we're going to do as we design this for you is how are you going to maintain it going forward? So we want to design it in a way that you can, obviously, these spreadsheets don't stay static. You're adding data, removing data, changing data. So we want to set this up in a way that you can take control over this process. You can make changes to your data. You can even add additional links into your document. So when we do the training, we're going to make that really specific to what we have implemented for you. So it's going to be training on if we added anything to your data. We sometimes might add a tab where we gather data together, or we add a few formulas for you. That's going to be explicitly explained to you, described very carefully, and then we're going to train you and give you some documentation on your specific implementation so that you can take it beyond what we do after we're finished. Hopefully that answers it.
Great questions, all of them for sure. I wonder if we have any other questions here. I'm just looking through to make sure I don't skip over anything that might be helpful to all. I guess there's a question around. You would think you probably covered a portion of it already in that last answer, but around does Expedience actually create the Excel spreadsheets? Do we actually, do we as part of the process for us to actually generate or develop Excel spreadsheets? Do you want to talk to that as well?
Could you repeat the question for me? I was just
Oh,
reading the
so
next one
sorry.
too. So sorry, I wasn't.
You have the same problem that I do. It's like I'm going through all these questions trying to make sure that I haven't missed anything.
I was
It's
just
just
reading the
around
next one. Yeah.
whether our services team, as part of the deployment of this, actually creates Excel spreadsheets or
Oh, thank
develops.
you. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I would say we are going to create your Excel. Your Excel is, we never take control over your Excel. So that is your data and your spreadsheet. Often we need to look at the Excel. We're happy to make recommendations if we think it could be made simpler or easier. Obviously that's up to you, but we will generally probably add a tab that will help us collect the data and put it in a format that is much easier to maintain and use by the document. So that's the extent to which we do it. There's usually some things that we would want to be able to add, but we never alter the underlying data. And I was just looking at the next question. SMEs who own the financial numbers, do they have access to the software too? And so I would say the Excel, again, we don't control it, we don't house it. Anyone who needs to maintain that data and the spreadsheets will continue to do that. We don't interrupt that or interfere with that in any way. The only ones who will need to have our software are those who are creating these proposal documents that we've integrated to your Excel. So the licensors are only going to go to those folks who are making the proposals, not to all those people, the SMEs, engineers, administrators who are maintaining the data. Nor do we have any control over that. And there are some cases in which we do a separate spreadsheet that works with that, so we don't even see that data. That's sometimes important, and so we'll accommodate whatever you need us to do in terms of preserving the integrity of the data.
So the last question that's popped up right now as you're finishing that answer, Melissa, thank you for that as well, by the way, is around how widely this is being used today. And I'll tell you, it's interesting. This has probably been used in one form or fashion all along. Again, the fact that our software lives inside of Word and it's so nicely integrated across the Office suite. There's a number of whether they be embedded tables or embedded charts or in different forms over the years of our tool. Likely it's been used in one form or fashion for some time. Probably in this current iteration, if you will, the current approach, I'd say probably over the last year and a half or so, we've had a big uptick in number of clients that have come to us with these kinds of challenges that we've nicely automated. It's allowed us to create a real momentum, both the software, the module that drives that, as well as the services team and the approach that Melissa just talked through. If I were to give you like a percentage of customers, it's tough for me to guesstimate, but I'll guess probably as much as maybe even 20 or 25% of our overall customer base are using this Excel, we call it Excel auto paste functionality in one fashion or another. So it's quite a common approach, certainly for many of our customers, especially again as the complexity of the proposals is increased and the use of Excel again as a really common data center for folks to both to update and leverage calculations and other tools that Excel brings with it automatically.
And if I could just add to that, I would just say that what we're seeing as we've been developing these modules and making these more available, more standardized, is that we're seeing not only an uptick in the number of implementations we do, but much more complexity. So we're really happy to see that. So as we get more and more complex requirements, we continuously upgrade our modules so that we can provide that more generally to customers. And that seems to be then again, self-fulfilling, that we have more people who are interested in the standard proposals. I think
The
we
last
have
question
one
that popped
more.
up
Yeah.
was, yeah, just around Excel Connect itself. And I'll tell you, that is an exciting topic. Again, Excel Connect isn't exactly related to the functionality I was just demonstrating in this call, but certainly Excel Connect for the new release that's in the process of being released right now is really cool. It's got lots of updates to that product that I'm super excited about. Without going into any great details for the fear of confusing some of you on the webinar that may or not be as familiar with of that tool, but around the mapping and connection of that process, again, of bringing in a questionnaire from Excel, answering it, better tools instead of Word that allows better visibility of restrictions and other limitations of the client's Excel RFP. So it's a really, really wonderful facelift and wonderful new functionality for that solution. I'm certain I'll have a webinar on that topic in the next month or two, because that's a really, really awesome new set of functionality that's brought with the new version of Excel Connect. So I think that's most of the questions right now, unless I've missed any, and I hope I haven't. And certainly if I did, or if Melissa did, or as we were going through quickly here, please do not hesitate to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to dive into the details of your specific kind of use of Excel. And matter of fact, I would love just to hear anything that you'd like to share around, hey, these are the challenges that we have, or the ways that we use outside data sources like Excel. Please absolutely feel free to reach out to me directly, and let's start a conversation around how we might be able to make that portion of your life much easier, as well as help you do a better job when it comes to using Excel as a data source to your proposals or your statements of work or other documents. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope this was enjoyable. I'll tell you, I really struggled when it came to giving a couple different examples in a way that'll help kind of illustrate how really complex and unique we can make this to tailor it specifically to your unique challenges or business processes. But hope this is of help. Happy to chat more, and thank you so much for attending today. Hope to talk to you very soon.